Hey guys, it's Ray here,
And Swill,
and we're here with Snailiens. This is week 13,
week 13.
because that comes after
That
9.
comes after 9.
Uh,
7, 8, 9, 13.
yes, that's how that works. No, so you may have noticed that we haven't updated at all with any devlogs. We did a few little updates on the website.
Yeah. But you had to
Uh,
have been looking for those, the news posts.
yeah, but there's no, video updates that we've done. And it's mostly because everything has been kind of apart on the floor and just in pieces, and we haven't had anything substantial to be able to, really show you, because it was all code, or it was all animation stuff in Maya, or,
Yeah.
It was just pieces of things. So we finally gotten things together, and we've gotten a lot of the Japan, exterior architecture and town and
Yeah.
foliage and stuff like that all working.
This is the 3rd or 4th level.
So where we are right now is you have broken into the inner courtyard of the Temple of the Jade Tentacle, and you are just about to go into the actual temple and the interior levels of the temple. But this is the final exterior level. And we actually, all the levels up to this are done. Well, done-ish. They need to be balanced, and we have to put new enemies and stuff in. But their art is done, and mechanically they're almost done. What else? So what you may be noticing is there's an awful lot of architecture, and when you do get the content, you'll notice that in general there's not quite as much foliage and bushes and shit like that as was shown in some of the images we've been posting on the website or on Twitter or something like that. It's mostly because we finally did some profiling, and we determined that it just wasn't performatively sound to use that much. We'd rather spend the performance on other things. And it was a lot of all the foliage has overdraw on it, so it requires a lot of draw calls, and it becomes very expensive.
It's these planes of leaves that you can see through one plane, through another plane, through another plane, and it just compounds.
And
so when you get a forest, it gets really bad.
Instead of using super modular pieces for the town buildings
and the castle.
And the castle, we're using just one big piece, and we're doing most of the design work in Maya now to reduce things like draw calls, so you don't get as many, because you get one draw call for every material that's on a mesh.
Every geo, on every mesh in the game, for each of them.
So it's far better if your building only has 3 materials and the whole building, than if you have 7 pieces of modular that all have 4 materials on them. It's a multiplicative thing.
24 draw calls.
Yes. So we just reducing things, making things more efficient, locking down visual look. I think we're almost there. I really like where it's heading. I think it certainly is really beating the crap out of Georgia visually.
Yeah.
We'll probably have to go back and add some interest to Georgia. But for the time being, we hope you enjoy, when it comes out, the Japan levels. What did we do, not this last week, but almost this last month, because we haven't updated?
Yeah.
The King Crab. The King Crab is the very first boss that you fight in the game. He is fully modeled. He's fully unwrapped. He's got his mesh weights. He's been rigged and boned. He has all of his animations, all of his texture. He's in the game. He has his mechanics implemented. It's really just... there's a couple more mechanics that we want to add, and now that we've started playing him.
Yeah.
And then it's opening cinematic, his entry into the game, and building out particle effects for it, and building out the animations and all that stuff. So we're almost there in terms of first boss, and we already know what our second boss is going to be, and concept has already been done for it, so that's rolling in. What else? actually built out a new system for the king crab. He's gonna have a mechanic so that you can pick up crabbers and throw them into a section of him. Well,
I'm trying.
the point is, like, we're now making it so that small enemies tentatively can be picked up and thrown. It's not ready for public consumption.
Yeah.
It's not polished enough.
Like, you guys can just see that.
But yeah, so
it's
like
a
all
little
small enemies,
weird.
they're gonna act as like kind of bombs if you pick them up and throw them. You will, when it goes live, the mechanic is you'll lose the weapon that's in that hand when you go to pick it up. But it's gonna be interesting because it's gonna allow us to do some mechanically interesting stuff with like you just grabbing enemies and throwing them at other enemies, and like some mechanics that do stuff with that. Nice work, Will. So we've done a ton of profiling, just performance profiling, GPU, CPU optimizations. We can throw a lot more at the screen, and it still performs. We certainly have a long way to go because instead of just going, okay, well, our game just performs better now, we've gone, okay, well, that just means that we can add more visual interest. And it's finally to a point where I can say that I'm happy with the way that the Japan stuff looks. I think there's some shots that are just objectively pretty, which is the first time I can say that for our own game. So we're happy with it now, and it's very much just optimizing it so things like 960 or 970 can get 90 frames all the time, no matter what. And there's still some squeezing that can be done. We've gotten all the low-hanging fruit and all the obvious stuff, but there's some stuff that we can do still. We've moved to MSAA.
Yeah. So,
a long time ago, we moved to the forward shader for everybody. And that helped clean some stuff up, and, it was nice.
It enabled some other stuff too.
It also gave us a lot of performance stuff back because we weren't using a lot of deferred renderer stuff we weren't using stuff that the deferred renderer is good at that makes it useful to use a deferred renderer, so it was kind of just lost performance. So we've changed over, and we've had the forward shader for a while, but we kept temporal anti-aliasing for the time being. Simply because it is a little bit of a performance gain over MSAA. But it's not enough to justify how blurry things get. So we've officially moved over to MSAA, and I can honestly say it looks so much sharper.
Yeah.
It looks just a lot better. Like the Vaseline got peeled back from the game. A lot of asset creation, that's what we did. I've actually moved into taking over a larger portion of the pipe.
Yeah.
So I used to just do concept. I used to do the paintings and the technical drawings for Will. Then he'd go into he'd model them, and then I'd texture them and get them all ready and put them in the game. But now we've actually changed it up. Will handles a lot of the architecture stuff and a lot of the big enemies, and I do all the other little kind of world stuff, pots and pans and baskets and the stands and
those
umbrellas and lanterns,
all
and
that,
all the little tchotchke stuff,
signage,
that makes
all
up
the signage,
detail work, which has definitely freed Will up to get more stuff in engine done, in terms of mechanics and code. So we're happy with that. I'm going to keep going with that. It's just wrangling Maya for me. It's definitely been a learning experience. But I think we're getting there. We finished payload art. So we've been talking about it for a while. No one's seen it. I'll be sure to, when I cut this, to put in a little shot of the payload. But
we could probably play a little bit of it here if we
really wanted to. But the payload is done. It's been modeled. It's all set up. It actually works very well. The payload style mechanics are all working, and we've been playtesting them. They're almost ready for prime time, so we're very excited about that.
Oh, wait. Forgot about that mechanic. Oh, God.
Oh, you screwed up. Good news is you've got plenty of runway.
I got plenty of runway.
But
new mechanic that I forgot that we were demoing
yeah,
here.
so we've rolled in some new code. Go ahead and explain it, Will.
I should have noticed that, but you'll notice if you notice the little the navigation helpers, the things that show where the snails are going to go. We're going over there the first wave when I was putting up the first tier defenses. This wave, they were coming from over here, and I just didn't catch it. But the point is,
we've changed spawners. We can
on a
now,
wave-by-wave basis, we can now designate,
things spawn here for this wave, things spawn there for other waves. It allows us to do some mechanical stuff for maps. It also is some framework that we pulled over to these that was mostly used in the payload maps to allow you to keep moving through an entire kind of hallway style map and have things spawn. So if we have the spawners, so
more traversal oriented map sets.
So we can do that now. And we're flirting with maybe in the future having levels that you have to defend multiple points, and things come from one direction and they start coming from another direction. You've got to switch it up. So bang for our buck. It was a little bit of code that unlocks a lot of mechanical interest potentially. What else? Vegetation collision pills. You're gonna notice when we put out another update, which is hopefully soon. There was some issues with trees in the Georgia levels. If you shot into the branches or the leaves of the tree, you would it would hit a collision and kind of bounce back, or the shot would get blocked, and it made for some weird kind of I thought that would hit the enemy, but it didn't. And so
up through the leafy
those
bits.
Just don't have collision anymore. There's collision on the branches and the actual trunk of the tree, but there's no actual collision on the big meat of the tree. So that should make kind of playing the levels more sensical. We've created a new weak point system. So this is another piece of the crabber, or the king crab, that has been kind of propagated down into other things. So you want to talk about the weak point system, Will?
All right. So with some of our enemies, with some of the larger enemies and the bosses, we wanted you to be able to have targetable spots on them
that do things
that have a specific mechanic behind them.
Or...
for instance, for the king crab, he has a mechanic where he has a pair of flamethrowers on his arms that have a little control pad on each wrist, and if you shoot each of them out, then respectively it disables the flamethrower for that hand.
That was weird. Up in the wrong hand. I wonder if that's a new bug.
Nah.
So yeah, targetable weak point system. It's going to help us do some mechanics for bosses, which that's how you kick it out of phases, or that things like that.
You toss crabbers.
It'll
into
do
a
damage
thing,
to them, or it'll heal other things, or it'll stop a mechanic, or it'll start another mechanic, or it'll stuff like that.
Now I'm being more aware.
But it allows us
over
to.
Here now.
Yeah, it's moved again.
The spawn point moves. And
it allows us
we can design that
to change it up so that you don't just keep making more defense in one spot and it just kind of trivializes later waves.
Makes it so okay, well now I've got to redesign what I had a little bit.
Yeah.
Where I've got to get them
funnel it
into
back
my
into
gauntlet.
what I was doing.
Yeah. So if I block this path off and I clear these guys out, now they're going to be going back through my gauntlet. So hey, I've adapted it.
Yeah, cool. So like we said, the king crab level, it got its final art. This is the king crab level.
800.
So what'll end up happening is you fight a standard wave, 5-wave level here, just like Will's doing. And then the next wave, or the next level, will just be the boss.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll fight him on the same map. Some might ask, why don't you just make it so that the boss is at the very, you fight through all 5 waves, and then you fight the boss. We decided not to do that because we're tuning it and we're building it out kind of like World of Warcraft bosses. So the intention is you will fail at these bosses a few times until you learn all the mechanics.
Quite
and
possibly.
We're trying to tune them to be a little bit more difficult.
Oh. He's here. He's here.
So this is a new enemy. He doesn't have all of his animations. He's a little static. But this is the Slimeback that we've teased for months now. And as you can see, there are weak spots on him that you can absolutely shoot out. So go ahead and why don't we shoot some weak spots on him, Will?
What the heck? My left hand has gone numb on me.
Are they invincible? Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
Big hit of damage.
So yeah, so the Slimeback, his mechanic is
big hit of damage.
he has too much health for you to really
feasibly
destroy him. So you have to shoot out his weak spots to do enough damage to kill him. It's just cool stuff like that. What was I saying? Final art for the King Crab. So
yeah,
a lot of people will question why we made it so that the boss isn't just at the end of this, and it's because we don't want you to have to play through 5 waves,
lose,
and lose against the boss multiple times to learn his mechanics. We don't want to punish the player like that. We'd much rather you drop in, immediately start fighting the boss. And if you fail, you just restart it. You just immediately start fighting him again. So it was just kind of a design choice by us. We think it makes the game less painful to play while losing no reward to the player. You're not going to feel like it's less of a reward or challenge. You're just going to feel less cheated by it if you fail. So the Slimeback, as you saw, is almost ready. We are getting there. Is your left hand just disabled right now?
Something's happened to my trigger. I'm sure that's not a hardware problem.
A lot of stuff we've been doing a lot of stuff, and it's kind of caused some mechanical quirks. But wow, that's really awesome, Will.
Yeah, it works, and I put in a little particle.
I'm incredibly surprised. So this is we've never tested this level.
No.
We've been throwing levels together because code has finally come off the line, and this is very much just a hot take. We were I think it's working. Let's throw it in and make a video because we haven't done one of these in so long, and we really want to update people with what we're doing because it's exciting.
Cool
it's
stuff,
super exciting about what we're doing. And I think it's performing really well.
I like the bows; they're really fun.
Yeah, the bows. It's definitely the new weapons that we're making are definitely more interesting than the old weapons, and we're very excited about stuff like the chain reaction and the frosted tip and the bow and stuff. The frosted tip, what ended up happening was I think we announced that we were going to roll it out as soon as we could within the week a month ago, and no one ever saw anything. It was very much I thought we were done. I liked the mechanic on it, but talking to Will, he wasn't satisfied yet. And so it's been put on a back burner. I think it's probably one of the next things we're going to touch. It's just making it sweet enough. We want all these weapons to really be unique and awesome. And there's a lot of iteration on that before you get a very good weapon that you're satisfied with.
That's really fun. Like the bow. There's so many flavors of the bow that happen.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And everything. It took I think we did probably 40 concepts. Have we lost the ability to use the trigger?
Something has gone wrong with the trigger on the left hand, and God, I hope it's not hardware, but we can't start the next wave without it. This may be a reboot and comeback kind of thing.
Oh, we can actually just go into the next level.
Yeah, you guys get the idea about this.
Yeah.
Defending here, it's a similar core defense. We really do want to show off though the new payload stuff.
So let's jump into the payload stuff because I think that's where people are going to be interested.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about pack stuff.
Close everything down and I'll figure out what the hell's going on here.
Well, I was just going to load right in.
Yeah, just go ahead and load right in. The compositor seems to have the trigger working.
Okay. I think it's just a bug. I think we found a bug.
The hell would have got the left hand's all of its trigger input
We're
stuck.
reasonably certain that Unreal is gaslighting us. It's either Unreal or Perforce, because one of them is causing code to like roll
Revert.
back months, like to months old code for
yeah.
a nonsense
Pieces,
reason.
small pieces are being modified in places that hadn't been used in a long time. Yeah.
We can't
Both
show
working
this.
now.
We can't show this.
Hmm?
Oh, we're in the wrong level.
Oh, you went to the
We're
wrong
in the
Japan.
wrong. They look
So
so
we-
similar.
We held on to an old copy
Yeah.
of the Japan
There's
payload
a lot of
1
artifacts
map
in this game
because
at this point.
we overhauled it. We replaced a lot of the foliage with the new town assets.
That's better. You're not going to get as much performance because lighting is unbuilt.
Okay.
But such is life. So that's the new payload. We're pretty excited about it. It's going to be pretty cool.
You've
We've got
got
those fans working.
A thing still got to be replaced.
All right, so we talked about the king crab. We talked about new enemies and weapons. So this level is going to be split into multiple levels because the length was just too long. We want to give you guys bite-sized chunks of it.
That unbuilt lighting though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, dynamic lights kill game performance. So PAX. So PAX will.
PAX is, I would say it's coming up, and we're still getting that pathing bug.
Yeah, it's alright.
I would say it's coming up, but it's quite a ways out. The submissions though, for
Yeah.
being able to get into
Use your left hand?
the stuff for it, are coming soon.
Use your left hand trigger. Okay, so it is working. It's just a
works.
bug.
I don't know what that was. The input got sticky.
So we're currently working on submissions for PAX. PAX West, I guess I should be more specific.
Up in Seattle.
That's in September, August. I'm not sure.
Beginning of autumn, end of.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Don't you go sneaking up on me.
So PAX 10 submission is the 15th of next month, this coming month, and the Indie Mega Booth is, I think, this coming Friday, which is kind of why we're pushing the Japan content out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, our hope is
it's because we've been working on it for an eternity.
this is the want, not necessarily what's going to happen. But our hope is that by this coming Friday, you guys have the very first chunk of Japan, which will include like 3 or 4 levels, maybe the King Crab boss fight, a weapon or 2, like a bunch of content stuff. If it doesn't make it in by Friday, it will make it in sooner rather than later after that. I promise. That's a real promise. I promise. It's coming. It's real. It's almost there. But we're getting it ready so that when we submit to PAX, they have this content as well to judge us by. Because PAX 10, if anyone has, or if you haven't heard of it, they do indie games and they do submissions, and they take the 10 games that are the best out of probably hundreds or thousands of submissions, and they promote the hell out of them, I guess I should say. They give you guys a free space, and they allow you to show the game at PAX for free, which is very, very expensive. I think even the cheapest booths are like $1,500.
Yeah.
Which would be super awesome for us because it means we get to come out and maybe meet some people who have played the game, and maybe get other people playing the game, because we are just about to a point where it is ready for prime time.
Yeah.
It may not be done, but the quality of the content
has arrived. Much like this payload, it
to the untextured
untextured pad has arrived.
But yeah, so PAX is what we're thinking about most right now. It's a possibility for us that we get into either the Indie Mega Booth, which takes about 60 to 80 people, developers. It keeps ballooning because more and more people, and there's more quality indie content.
Yeah. Which is not a bad thing.
Especially with VR, because that's really the only place that like good content is made. I'm extremely interested to see if he blows through that or not.
Blows through what?
The payload, if it can go right through those walls or not.
Yeah, no, it can fly over. It's a hover car.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in charge of code. You're in charge of code, person who can't get the triggers to work. So PAX 10, any mega booth, we'll let you know when we submit, if we get into those. Hopefully we do. It's a matter of rolling out this content and then making videos and promotional stuff for that. Then we're working on long term. We're working on a new boss. We're working on a couple new large kind of slimeback sized enemies. We're actually working on some medium sized enemies that aren't like your standard
the basic
Snailian.
snails or
His other
reskinned
creatures.
brethren.
So we can change that up. And just pumping more content, more enemies, more weapons, more towers, more levels, all that stuff. We can definitely do more Japan town and village stuff and, garden stuff now because all the assets are done. It's just making the levels. The temple stuff, that's the next thing on our docket is doing internal, kind of more modular content and making sure that we've got enough like little props and stuff for those, because we also have a narrative that we want to tell a story through those. So we're gonna need some stuff for that as well. Clang is, I think, just about ready to start being modeled.
Yeah. He's had a lot of concept.
It's
get off.
been very much a work in progress concept because we want to get him right. And I think he's about ready to be modeled. We have a huge amount of content written, and it's just a matter of getting the voice actors back in the shame pit, the recording studio to record those lines.
Nothing shameful about our studio.
We've actually rewritten the tutorial. We weren't happy with how long the tutorial takes, or how much tutorial there is, and then there's some convoluted things in the tutorial that don't teach the player correctly.
Yeah, we're going for better density and more efficient learning.
We're also going for more fun and to tell more of a story there.
Yeah,
which it absolutely will. We are
hopefully
super
those all
excited
come
about
together.
that because right now the biggest shortcoming of this game is there's just no story. And we keep talking about like this great story that it's got, and we've got all this writing and stuff, and it's just rolling it in is just a mother because there's animation that we've got to do for characters, and there's scripting. There's just so much scripting when there's voiced stuff. But we recognize that there is perhaps some failure to the tutorial.
Why am I so bad at this?
And we just need to get a little bit better there. And hopefully that'll bring it down. Like we're noticing it takes people upwards of an hour to play through the tutorial when it takes us probably, I think we clocked it at 7 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
So like we have no concept of how long it takes people to play VR stuff. So we're attempting to make a more reasonable tutorial.
Well, people like to tinker around with the
walls,
with the building,
and the
like
towers, and
making a really cool little setup,
the
and
stuff
then,
we take for granted.
Yeah.
So that's all. VO tutorial means we have to do some visual stuff, like some flip book instructional stuff for people. Model and animate Clang. That's the big one because Clang is going to have a huge monologue right at the beginning of the tutorial that really like kicks off the story.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for us is like the tutorial will not be a tutorial. It will be the start of the story. It will be the starting level. So there's going to be more enemies in it. It will be more interesting. It will be more like a full level, and it will have a lot more story to it.
For people that don't get what's kind of going on with this game type, you push it to the point, you defend it one way at the point, you push it to the next point.
So it's a combination of payload, like in Overwatch or Team Fortress, as well as your standard point defense when it stops at a point. And there will have some sort of story or little bit to describe what's going on there. It's not arbitrary that it's stopping or going. But yeah, we're about through the content, Will. I think we've just about covered everything, and with not a moment to spare because we are now past half an hour.
Yeah, all right.
To be fair, it's been a month. I think it's probably a good idea to show people what we've been working on. There's like a straggler back there. The big thing with the payload is the variable spawning.
What's wrong with you?
And we're gonna work on this. It's just their brain is dead right now.
Yeah.
The variable spawning allows it so that the push cart is actually what's dictating where enemies spawn.
Yeah.
And it has a cone around it, so enemies will never spawn right on top of it, and enemies will never spawn really far away from it to the point where you can't find them. Which is the goal.
Oh god, they ambushed us.
We've been ambushed.
You all spawned in at once, except you've all immediately gotten stuck, so it's fine.
Yeah. But we're at the precipice of performance.
If only
we were at a point
here.
where Will and I were just sitting here going, well, it's pretty, but shit, it doesn't run.
You can't play it.
You like
even on a 1080, even trying, you couldn't play it. We've been working on getting it to perform better on the target hardware, on a 970, like,
yeah,
you know.
And a lot of it is like not necessarily taking things out, but strategic placement of very large, cheap things to render. So like, there's a reason you're seeing all these buildings in this scene.
They're cheaper than trees.
Because buildings are way cheaper than trees, and if you have a big building that completely obscures a tree, that tree doesn't get drawn.
So you break it up with trees, and now you don't have to do all that draw call stuff.
Yep. It's a lot of what it is. But we think this looks a lot better than Georgia.
Here's the next
point.
And
we're continuing to improve the quality of the work. But we do appreciate that everyone has been bearing with us. It certainly has taken a very, very long time to make Japan.
Yeah.
More than we anticipated, more than we wanted it to take. But
oh no, you don't.
Like we've always said, it'll get done when we're satisfied with the quality of the content, not when we reach a certain date. So it took us a long time, but we are very happy with the end result, and we're very excited for people to start playing it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright, so this is also the first time I've really seen the payload map working. So I'm enjoying this just as much as I imagine people watching are.
Are you enjoying the bugs too?
Yeah, no, I'm noticing some hitches and stuff, and some performance things.
This next wave would be the last wave. Should we go for a walk and should I make it mad dash?
Yeah, let's go for a walk and show them the rest. So we're just gonna real quick show you the rest of the level.
This would be where the level would be cut when we split it into multiple levels.
The next level right where you left off.
Yeah, like as you guys kind of were experiencing there. It's plenty long enough
to save on load times. To save on just calling assets into buffers, and stuff like that.
Do you go through this kind of shadowed little under crevice kind of town thing?
Yeah.
There's going to be a point in here, all that sort of stuff. And the last point, you climb out of the crevice.
Which this is a little long and a little dead, so we're going to modify this
Break
a little bit.
Break it up a little.
You come through. This is the very first time that you see the Temple of the Jade Tentacle. And it's an important moment in the story, and it's a big reveal. But it's starting to get there in terms of look. Go down into the town. So this was the very first town that we made. This was kind of the target look. Once we had this, we went, okay, all of Japan, town, village stuff needs to look like this. And I'm pretty satisfied with it.
Mm-hmm. Good pots and pans and urns, man.
Yeah, man. Those models, man. Almost killed me.
Those delicious low poly sushi rolls.
Yeah. It was way too expensive. The LOD 0 was too expensive, so we're just defaulting to LOD 1. That's the other thing, like, starting this project a year ago, if you had talked to us about LODs, we would have just looked at you puzzled and bewildered. But level of detail is incredibly important, and the ability for you to draw out mesh and texture sizes as you move away from things is critical in VR. And we are very aggressively
higher
lodding things so that we gain performance. But that's about it for this week. It was a big week, but it's kind of like most of the stuff that we do. There's a period of nothing happens, and then a lot of stuff finally gets done all at once, and kind of as a cohesive package gets done, and we can show you guys a really cool thing. So I'm always super excited for these moments. But yeah, it's about there. It's in the balance and testing and bug fixing phase.
And some final art fiddliness.
Final art fiddliness is kind of... It's almost done. You can expect it to look basically like this when you get it. It's just performance and bugs and stuff like that. So we look forward to rolling this out as soon as we possibly can. We absolutely are not sitting on anything. We will roll it out as soon as we can. You have any last remarks, Will?
Stay in school.
Okay, no last remarks. All right, guys. This has been Snailiens signing out. See you next week.
Bye.